I've been launching companies. And somebody asked me what I do now, and I launch entrepreneurs.
Realize that the key to success for you as an entrepreneur is you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Just get up and launch the thing. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for having me and for coming here today. This is my first visit to India. And I have been going to a different city every single day. So it has been a very interesting trip, to say the least, but I've been really enjoying it. I want to tell you guys before we start talking about this, excuse me, I was speaking at an event, so it was the G20, where all the G20 nations gathered in Moscow. And actually it was 40 different countries were there that all had delegations of entrepreneurship. So the people from 40 countries gathered at the G20 in Moscow to talk about entrepreneurship, and that is where I met the Indian delegation. There were about 20 people from India in the delegation that came to this world event in Moscow to talk about entrepreneurship, and I enjoyed so much talking to the Indian group and learning about it that they said, why don't you come to India and talk to us about entrepreneurship and see what we're doing and learn and meet some of our people. And I just have to tell you guys before I start, something that happened the other day that I was really proud of. So we did this isn't in my presentation, so I'm going to tell you about it. We did this experiment of entrepreneurship. And what we did was we chartered a ship to sail all around the world. It took 100 days to sail around the world. It was called Unreasonable. Unreasonable at Sea was the name of this particular ship. And what we decided to do was take some of the best entrepreneurs from all over the world competitively, put them on a ship, and sail them to all these countries to see what they could do. And it was really, really interesting that we had probably 1,000 startups from all over the world apply. And when we picked the 10 best and brightest entrepreneurs and startups in the world to go on the ship with us, India was one of the 10. There was 2 young men from India, actually from Bangalore, that came on the ship and traveled around the world. And these are people that, and by the way, they were like many Indians that grew up in family businesses and were building their company. They were going to launch it in Bangalore and they were going to stay in South India because they never thought they could go global. And when we took them on this trip around the world, as we took these 2 young Indians to places like Africa and China and Japan, everywhere they went, people said, wow, your Indian startup, your product, your company is brilliant, and we want to use it here. So they never thought they would leave South India, and now they have customers in places like Africa, because your ideas are as good as anybody's in the world, right? So it was really exciting. So the other day when I was here in India, the TV station CNBC wanted me to come on TV and do an interview. And it was a really happy moment for me. For one brief moment, I felt like I was Indian. Okay, because the woman, the news reporter said, well, Jeff, that's really nice, but you're American, and that stuff happens in America. And I said, no, it happens right here in India. And she said, like who? And I had invited one of the young Indians that was on that ship with us. He happened to be, I realized I'm going to Bangalore, and he lives there. So I sent him a text. He said, I'm here. And I said, come over to this place where we were. We were on the Infosys campus. And he came over to Infosys. And when the reporter said to me, that doesn't happen in India, I said, why don't you ask that young man right there with the backpack? And she looked and said, well, that just looks like a student with a backpack. I said, it is. It's also one of the world's next great entrepreneurs who's building the next generation of great products, and he's doing it right here in India. So I was really proud of that moment to get to do that. That was a great moment on this trip. So today, our topic is excellence. And we're going to talk about what it takes to be excellent. And this isn't entrepreneurship or business, this is life. Okay, whatever you're going to do with your life, if you want to achieve excellence and do something great in the world, these are the things you have to learn. And it's interesting to me because now, later in my life, I've been very, very blessed in a lot of ways. And I hear people say when they don't meet, I hear them, they say, oh, well, Jeff's just really lucky, right, because he's got to do all these things. And I will tell you, when people tell you you're really lucky, here's what happened. They didn't see all the nights. They don't see all the blood, sweat, and tears that are behind you. They didn't see all the work you put in to do that. And I want you guys to think about kind of the theme. And sometimes I tell people, like if you think of somebody an Olympic gymnast. No Olympic gymnast won a gold in the Olympics by coming home, practicing for 20 minutes, and then laying on the couch and watching TV. Okay? They work really, really hard. So anything you're going to do in life, if you want to be excellent at it and achieve big things, which I hope you do, you're going to have to work for them. And hard work is always part of the formula. So I want to tell you guys, my whole life, I have tried to study excellence. And I've tried to figure out this. The people that achieve the most in the world, the people you respect and admire, it doesn't matter if it's a business person, an athlete, an actress, whatever it is, and anybody that achieves a lot in life, I started thinking this. What is it those people are doing that we should be doing? Right? What is the common thing that the world's most successful people have? So I started studying successful people. And I started trying to figure out why my friends who were really successful, why were they? Why were they excellent? They achieved excellence in their field. What did they do that we should do to achieve excellence? So what I'm here today to do is try to share with you what I think the world's most excellent people do in common that we should do to achieve our goals. Now these pictures, I'm embarrassed by the pictures, but I want to share them for a reason. I have friends who, whatever their path was in life, they achieved excellence. So I started to study what they did, and that's what I want to share with you. So in the upper left, I know these are kind of dark, that's this thing. I'm standing with a guy named Robert Redford. He's an Academy Award-winning American actor. Obviously on the right is Elton John. I'm going to tell you stories about some of these friends of mine. Down below, I don't know if any of you have ever watched the American show Grey's Anatomy. Have you guys ever seen it? Well, that's my friend Patrick plays McDreamy. He's the star of this show. But these are all friends who have achieved excellence in their life somehow. Okay, obviously Patrick's show is one of the biggest shows in television. Elton John, you all know who he is. Robert Redford won Academy Awards for acting. What are these people doing that made them excellent in their fields? On this slide, in the upper left is when I was on tour with NSYNC. The guy with the hat next to me, that's Justin Timberlake. But these are friends of mine who started a group, and at one point NSYNC was the biggest band in the world. All right, so apparently what they did was excellent. They achieved something, and you try to study that. I don't know if you guys have heard of the TV show Glee, but in the States we have a TV show called Glee. Down on the left, a friend of mine is a star of that show. The show has done really, really well and been successful. On the right is another friend of mine who is a boxer. His name's Evander Holyfield. I'm going to tell you a story about him. Most people know him because Mike Tyson, the American boxer, bit his ear off. And that became a pretty well-known world event. But the real event is that Evander Holyfield was the boxer that knocked out Mike Tyson and became the heavyweight champion of the world. So all these people somehow achieved excellence in whatever they were doing. And that's what we're here to talk about. What is the common element for achieving excellence? And by the way, here's a really important thing to realize. None of those people were born excellent or successful. None of those people were born at the top of whatever they were trying to do. They weren't born into their dream. They all started somewhere and wound up here. Okay? So the point is, if they can do that, you can do that. Right? And we're going to talk today about how important your attitude is. Being able to achieve anything you want to achieve in life starts with believing you can. Having a positive attitude. These are all people that started somewhere far away from where they wound up. Right? And somehow wound up being excellent because they believed they could. So what is it you need to do if you want to achieve big things with your life? There are habits these people have. There's a way they run their life that makes them successful and excellent. That's what you've got to learn. There are these habits, and that's what we're going to talk about today. As I already said, achieving excellence at anything in life, whether it's sports, movies, music, politics, anything you do in your business or personal life, being excellent requires a level of focus and commitment that most people just won't make. Okay, there's no easy path. In fact, one of the things that I really don't like in the United States is we have this thing called, I call it the American Idol Nation. And you know what I mean by that? There's people that say, I'm just going to go stand in line and maybe tomorrow I'll be famous. Okay? It's what our reality shows do. People that have achieved nothing suddenly become famous just because they're on a reality show. Okay? Well, I'm hoping that's not your plan A. I'm hoping you have a better plan for achieving something in your life than hoping somebody sees you waiting in line somewhere. So, excellence, we even have another sort of phenomenon in the United States that I really don't like, which is called this. It's called every child gets a trophy. Okay? So when you play in a team, if at the end every child gets the same trophy, what does that do? Does that teach you to work harder? Does that teach you to practice longer? No. It teaches you that it doesn't really, extra effort doesn't matter. And it's not true. Okay? The truth is, the people that are willing to work harder and put in more effort than everybody else win. Okay? And we're going to see some examples of that here today. So if you're not willing to work harder than everybody around you, whatever it is you're doing, if you don't look around and say, I'm working harder than anybody I know at achieving this goal, you're not going to achieve excellence. That's what these people have in common. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So I want to tell you a story of when I was a child. This is, by the way, written on the wall in my office and even at my home. Somebody printed it on a big beach ball. It's in my house now. And because this is what I believe, that if you have big dreams, and by the way, I loved the Walt Disney quote, because one of the things that influenced me as a child is a Walt Disney quote. And I saw Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Right? His point being, as soon as you start making something real in your head, you're on your way to, and you believe in it, doing it. So when Walt Disney said, you can dream it, you can do it, I started thinking, maybe I can. Because he certainly did. He's one of my role models. So here's what I was thinking, even when I was young. That if I have big dreams and I work harder than everybody else, shouldn't I be able to achieve whatever I want? Shouldn't I be able to design my own future? That was my thought. Well, I added a third thing. Because you have to create value. And what that means is you have to have big dreams. You have to work really hard, but you have to do something the world cares about. Okay? Because I had somebody that came to me one day, and, he said, Jeff, I'm working really, really hard, and nothing's happening. I'm not getting excellent. I'm not achieving my goals. Well, I sort of felt like when he described to me what he was doing, if you go outside and dig a big hole, and then take all the dirt, dig another hole, and put that dirt in there, and then take this dirt and go back to the other hole, and keep going back and forth, you know what? You're working really hard, but you're probably not going to become excellent or successful at anything because you're doing something useless. So there's three parts of this. Have a big dream, and I'll give you some examples. Work really hard, but go out in the world and do something that matters. Okay? So this is what I fundamentally believed in my life as a child. But now I have to tell you a story. And I'm going to tell you the point of the story. The point of the story is this. Your attitude in life determines your outcome. And here's what I mean by that. Those people I showed you pictures of that have achieved excellence in their lives, every one of them believed they could achieve excellence. Right? They had an attitude saying, I'm going to go out there and do something with my life. I'm going to be excellent at something. Right? These people had an attitude. The more positive you think, it's sort of a karma thing. The more positive energy you put out there, the more comes back to you in the world. So I had somebody the other day here in India, and he kept on saying, every time we were talking about this kind of topic, and he kept on telling me all the reasons why it wouldn't work. And I felt like saying, you might as well quit now, because if all you can do is spend your time talking about why something won't work, it'll never work. Okay? So there's no guarantee that your positive attitude will make you excellent, but there's pretty much 100% guarantee that if you don't think that way, you'll never get there. If you already start thinking of reasons to fail, in fact, I'm going to tell you guys something that's going to come up a little bit later. When I was in the internet business, and one day I wanted to make a movie. Some people in their life are going to want to climb Mount Everest or something. There's some goal in your life before you die you want to do. I always wanted to make a movie. And it was something on my list. So when I went and said to my friends, they said, Jeff, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go to Hollywood and try to make a movie. Everybody said, you don't know how to make a movie. Well, what is that? Right away, that's that negative attitude coming in. And everybody told me this. They said, you're going to produce an independent film. They said 97% of all the independent productions, independent movies, never get on a movie screen. 97% of all the movies produced fail. So here is the difference between attitude determining your outcome and everybody else. Well, all these people around me said, Jeff, you should stop because 97% of them fail. I said, does anybody have the phone numbers of those other 3 people? Because that's who I want to talk to. I was focused on not that 97% fail, but that somehow some people succeed. There is a way to go out and produce a movie and succeed because 3 people did it. So that's your attitude. What are you focusing on? I always focus on, on trying to find the way to make things happen, not the reasons why it won't. When your attitude is already thinking about how you might fail, you're already willing yourself to fail. So it was sort of a funny story with that first movie because we went out to LA, we made this movie, and I won't go through all the details. We made a scary movie, this movie called Cabin Fever. But we made it ourselves. We wrote it, shot it, produced it. It's so bad that I'm even in it. That's how bad of a movie it is. But we followed all the things I'm going to talk about today in terms of attitude and effort. And in the end, this movie that we made for just over $1 million wound up being in theaters in 46 countries, and it made $100 million. Okay, good thing I didn't listen to all the people that said, you're likely to fail. And later people would call me and say, hey, how'd your little movie do? And I would say, fine, because I didn't want to answer, because I felt bad telling them. Actually, it did really, really well, because we gave ourselves a chance. What I'm telling you is, your attitude doesn't guarantee success, but give yourself a chance. Believe in yourself and give yourself a chance to prove it. And do that. So here's the story. I was 10 years old, and I went to my buddy Mike's house, my friend's house. When I got to his house, all my friends were standing in Mike's room looking at a poster. And I walked in, and the poster was like that. And I said, what are you guys looking at? And they said this, and I didn't even know what it was. I said, what is this? And they said, it's called a Ferrari. I didn't even know what a Ferrari was at that time. But everybody was fascinated by it. In fact, I'll tell you guys, in the real poster, there was also a really pretty girl sitting on the car, but we were 10 years old. One of my friends says, she should not be sitting on that nice car. So we weren't really focused on the girl, we were focused on the car. But I went home, and I didn't understand why everybody was fascinated. And so I went home and I said to my mom, I said to my mother, Mom, can I ask you a question? My mom said, what? And I said, why is everybody fascinated by this car, this poster? And she said, well, what's the poster of, son? And I said, it was of something called a Ferrari. And she said, oh, that explains it. She said, the reason that they're so fascinated by this car is because you'll never have one. It's unattainable. It's just dream, a vision. And I said, oh, my mistake, because I thought Ferraris were real cars. And my mother said, no, they're real cars. And I said, then what do you mean they're unattainable? No one can have one. And she said, well, I didn't say no one could have one, Jeff. I just said you can't. Okay? And I said, wait, why can't I have one? And my mother said, son, you know and nobody you know will ever drive a car like that. 0.001% of the world will ever drive a car like that, so just forget it. And I said, wait, does somebody drive this car? And my mom said, yes, they're real cars. Somebody has one. And I said, then why can that not be me? And she said, it's just not going to happen. Now, in her defense, my mother said she was trying to protect me from expectations, from too high of expectations. But I'm going to tell you, I will say that right here in India to Indian parents who tell their children, who tell you guys what you should do with your life. What they're doing is putting a ceiling on top of you that says this is all your life is ever going to be, so just be happy with it, okay? And I was saying, oh, I don't want to be happy with it. Why are you telling me, and to my own parents, why, not disrespectfully, I'm just trying to understand, why are you telling me the highest I can go? Why isn't it up to me? Why can't I have big dreams, work really hard, and do whatever I want with my life? And I started thinking that. When my mother said, you can't have this, I started thinking, I'm going to prove that I can. I'm going to prove that if I believe in myself and work hard, it should be me who determines what I have in the world and where I go and what I do. This is not a story about cars. I didn't care about the car. What I cared about was people telling me what I could and couldn't do and what goals I could reach. That fundamentally bothered me. So even then I was thinking, I'm going to prove that this can't be right. That the size of your dreams and the amount of work you put in should determine your future. You should be the one deciding how far you go in life, not anybody else telling you that. And I will tell you guys the rest of the story, because years later, I was looking for something in my room. I was 17 years old now. And I went in the closet and I found this poster. I kept it as an incentive to remind me all the time that if the world tells you no, it should be you should be deciding that. So I was looking at this poster, and my mother walked in. And my mom came in and said, "Oh, hey, I see you found that car again." And I was looking at the poster for a few minutes, and I said, "What car?" And my mother said, "Oh, I see you finally found the girl on the poster." And my mother said, "Son?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "You won't have that either." And I said, "Okay, thanks, Mom." And I said, "Mom, can I ask you one more question?" And she said, "What?" And I looked at the pretty girl in the car, and I said, "If I got that car," my mom said, "Okay, fine, that girl would probably show up." And I said, "Okay, at least now I know how the world works." But the point was, my attitude then was, I am going to decide my own fate. I am going to be in charge of my future, and it should be a direct function of how hard I work in life and how focused I am, not what other people tell you. By the way, I tried an experiment. I told my friends, when I grow up, I'm going to have that car. And everybody laughed. I said, "Why is that funny?" And they said, "Because you never will." So your attitude, if your attitude is you never will, then you probably won't. Okay? What I'm asking you to do is give yourself a chance to dream big and to have high goals. That's a big dream. And it isn't about cars. It's just about saying the world shouldn't tell you what you can do. That's up to you in terms of what you believe in. Now, here's another thing that I noticed about the world's most successful people. They have a purpose in life. So the story I just told you was not about a car. It wasn't that I wanted the car. It was that I wanted to prove I could get it. Does that make sense to you guys? I wanted to show the world, if I want that, I can have that because I earned it. And it wasn't even about the car. But here's what I realized. The people in life that are most excellent are people that are driven by purpose. There's something every day that gets them up again and again to keep on working when everybody else says, "This is too hard, I'm just going to go home." There's a reason that 0.001% of the world will ever drive a car like that. Again, not about cars. The point is, most of the world isn't willing to do what it takes to be excellent. But I started looking at these people, and I'll tell you an interesting thing. I just showed you some people, and I have friends that are successful in business. I have friends that play professional football and baseball, and other people that have achieved. So these people have achieved success, which in many of these cases includes wealth, money. But here's an interesting point. Not one of them said to me, when I started talking to all these people, "How did you get successful?" Not one of them said, "I went out there to try to make a lot of money." Every single successful person was driven by something other than money. They made money because they succeeded, but they didn't go out focused on money. So what I'm telling you is, and I'm going to give you an example, is what you need to do is have a purpose in life for what you're doing. Is to think about what you want your life's purpose to be. And let's do an example of that. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not money. Right? Focusing on excellence in some purpose is what causes you to be excellent, which is where the rewards come from. But you don't start going for the rewards. So again, this is what I learned. The world's most excellent people are not driven by the money. And I'm going to give you an example right after this. They're driven to perform because they have some passion and purpose in what they're doing. That's what makes them excellent and successful. So don't focus on money, focus on success. So I'm going to tell you two stories as an example of that. Years ago, in the internet time, there was these three athletes in the United States that decided to start an internet company. It was Michael Jordan, the basketball player, American football player named John Elway, who played for the Denver Broncos, and then there was a hockey player in America named Wayne Gretzky. So if you don't know Gretzky and Elway, you probably know Michael Jordan. Okay? So at that time, they called me and said, "Can you help us with our internet company?" So I went and spent time with them. So I got to know Michael Jordan, and while we were spending time together. And I had to ask him a question. which I think is going to give you a really good idea of what excellence is about. One day, before I ever knew I was going to be friends with him, one day I was watching a game, basketball game. Michael Jordan was already Michael Jordan. He had won all the championships. He had won the MVPs, the trophies. He had made all these millions of dollars. He was already Michael Jordan. He'd achieved everything in his career. So then it was a game late in the season. The game was close to ending. It was in the last period, minutes left. And Michael Jordan's team, the Chicago Bulls, were winning by 20. So they already won the game. Okay, the game was already over, and he was already Michael Jordan. But here's what I saw happen. One of the other players threw the ball to Michael Jordan. They threw it too high over his head. And the ball started going out of bounds. And I'm home watching this game, and I see Michael Jordan run over to the edge, look up, put his foot down, jump in the air, catch the ball, throw it back to his teammate, and then smash into the stands, into the chairs, into the people. He rolled over people and microphones and Coca-Colas and smashed down into everybody. And I thought, why on earth would you do that? So I said, Michael, can I ask you a question? And he said, what? And I told him the story. I said, I don't understand why in the fourth quarter of a game that doesn't matter, when you're up by 20 and you're already Michael Jordan, why on earth would you do that? And he said something that really was life-changing to me. He said, you don't understand, Jeff. He said, I'm Michael Jordan because I do that. And that was a really important lesson for me. Because I said, you're Michael Jordan, why would you do that? And he said, no, that's how you get to be Michael Jordan. That is the attitude that excellent people have. They don't take a play off. They are committed to working hard and doing what it takes all the time, not just when it's easy. That's the difference between people who achieve their goals in life and everybody else, that even when they're winning the game, they still play at the same level all the time and commit. I'm going to tell you a similar story with Elton. Elton John and I were doing a charity concert. And when we were doing this concert, when he does a concert, he sits with his right side to the audience, so you can only see his left hand when he's playing the piano. I think we had 30,000 people sitting out there in the arena. And you know when you're at a concert, with the band or the artist, when they finish, they go behind the curtain and everybody claps, and then they come back out for an encore to do more songs. So I went behind the curtain just to wait for Elton. But I was looking out the curtain to see what it looks like to be him. So I'm looking out at him playing his piano in front of 30,000 people, and no one can see his left side. And he was playing this song, again, I don't know if you guys know Elton John music, but you can nod your head if you know this song. He has a song called Rocket Man. And he was playing this song. And when he finished the song, I saw him do something that nobody else saw. He took his left hand at his face, like as if he were Michael Jordan making a shot. He went like this. He did kind of a fist pump, right? And then he came behind the curtain. And I said, Elton. And I said, what was that about? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, the fist pump, like an athlete winning the game. And he said, oh, I really nailed that song. And I said, nailed that song? Elton, you've been playing that song for 35 years. And he said, actually, Jeff, 38, but who's counting? And I said, so 38 years later, you played the song well and you're doing a fist pump? And he said, Jeff, that's why I'm still on stage 38 years later. I said, how do you do that? And he said, I'll tell you a little trick. And this is excellence in action. He said, every single concert, I find someone in the audience, I look at her, and I say, this is what Elton does. He says, she has never been to an Elton John concert, so this has to be the best concert I've ever done, because this fan has never seen me play before. What an amazing attitude. He's already become a knight in England. He's Sir Elton John. He could phone it in, right? But he doesn't. Every night he pretends it's his first concert ever, and he tries to do his best over and over again. That is what excellence is. It's that level of attitude and commitment to everything you do that never quits. So let's talk a little bit about purpose. Now, this picture, I know some of you may not be able to see it, but there's a guy on the side of this cliff. That guy is my best friend in the world. That's Michael. Again, my closest person in the world. Michael's best friend for a lot of years. What's interesting about that picture is not what you see, it's what you don't see. There's no ropes, there's no safety lines, and there's no harness. My friend Michael is the world record holder in climbing. He has climbed more cliffs and mountains than anyone in the entire world without a single rope. It's a crazy thing, yes, but that Michael's a crazy guy. That's how he lives. He achieved greatness in his field. In fact, the magazine once called him, that picture is from 60 Minutes, a TV show, and they called him the Michael Jordan of climbing for doing this. He never fell. Michael would come, I decided to hire him, even though he's my best friend. I hired him for one of my companies. Michael wanted to direct movies, so I hired him to my movie company. And Michael had this crazy habit. He would come up to me, and it'd be like, he'd say, Jeff, we should go do this. And I'd say, Michael, it's Tuesday. We'll go on Saturday. And Michael would say, well, what if there is no Saturday? And I would say, here he goes again, Michael, right? And then the next week, he'd come in and say, I got an idea, we should go do this. And I'd say, Michael, it's Wednesday afternoon, we'll go Saturday. And Michael would say, well, Jeff, what if there is no Saturday? And all the time, we have this little game running. Well, this picture is in Ireland. This picture is on a Thursday, a couple years ago. The next day, Friday, and this is even hard for me to talk about still, Michael drowned in that sea right there. He drowned in the Irish Sea. And I lost my best friend. And to make it worse, the Irish Navy, who was searching for the body, called me on a Saturday. And guess what I thought? There are no more Saturdays. I woke up one morning and Michael was right. You don't know how many Saturdays you have. The guy that kept saying to me, what if there is no Saturday, suddenly run out of Saturdays. So I started thinking, what am I doing with my Saturdays? And I don't mean literally Saturday, my life. Am I doing anything that matters to me? So I'm going to continue with that. But here's what happened. I wound up finding myself at a funeral. And I'm standing at a funeral for Michael. And everybody is talking about Michael. And I'm listening, and I'm saying, this was my best friend. And I'm saying, no, that's wrong, guys. That's not what Michael was about. That's not what his life meant. You don't understand him. And a thought occurred to me. And I want you to think about this as you grow older, and everybody at any age. I started thinking, well, I was upset that nobody understood what Michael was about, and they were talking about him wrong. I said, wow, here's a thought. If it was your funeral today, what would people say about you? So I started wondering, if it was my funeral, not Michael's, what would people be standing here saying? And the answer really horrified me, because I started thinking, the answer would be, oh, boy, Jeff did a bunch of nice businesses. The answer would be that I was a good businessman and that I made money. If all people could say about me, I know that because I mentioned before that, when we talked about our biggest startup ever was Priceline. Priceline was a little company we started, okay, and with a small group of people at a table and no money at the beginning and an idea. Today, that company does business in 180 countries, and our little idea is worth $60 billion today. To give you an idea how silly that is, and when I was at Infosys the other day, they told me that Infosys is worth $25 billion, and that's a company with 160,000 employees. So the problem is, I know if it was my funeral, people would say, wow, these guys built a multi-billion-dollar company. If all people could say about me at my funeral was business deals, then my life was an epic fail. My life was a complete waste if all you could say was business. So I started thinking, what do I want people to say at my funeral? And I'm telling you guys, I'm asking you to think the same thing. Your funeral is a long way off, but today is the day to think about what you want your life to mean. You don't want to wake up 40 years, whatever, sometime later and look back and say, well, I didn't really lead the life I was thinking I was going to live. I let all these Saturdays go by without doing anything that I needed to do. So you think about what do you want to be judged by. So I thought about that. I thought to myself, and I want you to ask you guys yourself the same question. When your life is done, your journey is over, what do you want people to say? Because guess what? Whatever you want them to say, that better be what you do with your life, or it isn't going to happen. If all I ever did was another business deal, then all people would have to say about me was he did business. So I took a pen out and I wrote down what I want people to say when my journey's over. And I want people to say, Jeff made a positive impact in my life. I don't want to be judged by how much money I made or how many deals I did. I want to be judged by how many other people's lives I made better. So you know what? I better get busy making other people's lives better in some way. And the reason that I'm telling you that is once I understood what my purpose was in making other people's lives better, it changed my focus. So if you don't know, think about what you want your life to be, what you want your purpose to be, what you want to accomplish with this, however many Saturdays you have, and then act that way. Do things that do that. So for me, I wound up deciding that if I want people to say one day, Jeff made a positive impact on a lot of people, but I got to try to make a positive impact on a lot of people. So why am I doing a 6-city tour through India? Because I'm trying to help. I'm trying to see if I can have a positive impact on somebody somewhere, because that's my purpose in life. So now, sometimes your purpose takes money, right? I've taken 2 years off without doing any work. I had to be able to make money to do that. But the focus wasn't the money. The focus was the purpose, right? The focus wasn't that Ferrari. The focus was just being in a position to buy it if I wanted to. Does it make sense to you guys? That's what you're trying to get to with purpose. So here's some of the pictures, which I will now add some from India. But I've been trying to organize my life around what my purpose is. These are just pictures in different countries of people I've been mentoring and trying to work with. I've been mentoring students and entrepreneurs around the world because now I know what my purpose is to try to positively impact other people's lives. And I think I want you guys to think about these same things. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want the end of your story? Go and write the last chapter of your life now, and then work backwards, and you will have a way more fulfilling life because you won't waste time. Somebody said to me recently, he said, wow, I thought you were going to be way older. And I said, well, I'm pretty old now. And I said, why did you think I was going to be way older? And the person said, because you've done so many things in your life, Jeff, I just figured you were a lot older. Well, you know why I've done so many things in my life? Because I didn't waste time. Because I knew what my purpose was. And when I was doing things with my life that didn't take me to that purpose, I just stopped doing them. If it's not going to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve with your life, then what are you doing? You're wasting your Saturdays. So that was really my focus, and I want you to think about that too, and make sure that well, I'm going to give you an example. Here's another example. This friend of mine, when I hire people, by the way, when I go out, when most people are interviewing, so I'm looking for excellence. I spend my whole life as a CEO and a leader in management companies trying to find talented people. Everywhere I go in the world, when I meet somebody that I'm impressed with, I try to add them to our team. Okay, so I'm always looking for talent. But I will tell you something. The old way is for me to go up to you and say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do all this work, and in exchange, you can have this job and I'll give you money. Right? And you should be thankful that I'm paying you to do this. That's normally how we hire people. One time I was telling a story because this guy came up to me who was trying to convince me to work with his startup as an entrepreneur. And after he told me, I said, let me understand this right. You want me to work all day and all night every single day so that one day you can buy a boat, right? And I was joking, but he wasn't. He said, yeah, that's it. And I said, sir, I was joking. I said, that's not very exciting for me, that you want me to work all the time and have no life so you can have a boat someday. So I started learning when you hire that the purpose we just talked about, everybody has one. And people that find it are excellent employees because they achieve excellence because they stay focused to achieve their purpose. Here's an example. So when I meet people now, I don't say, let me tell you what I want. I say, tell me your story. Tell me your goals. Tell me what matters to you in your life. So I met this guy, Chris, and I said, tell me your goals. And Chris grew up in a cold part of the United States. In the U.S., we have these mobile homes, if you don't know them, trailers people live in. They're made out of metal. They were very poor, and they lived in one of these metal boxes. And because it was old, it rusted and had holes in it. And they were poor, so they only had one blanket. And Chris had his mother and his sister and him. So in winter, he had three choices every day. He could take the blanket and cover the hole so the snow didn't come in, but then his mother and his sister were shivering because they had no blankets. He could put the blanket on his mother, and then his sister would be cold. He could put the blanket on his sister, and his mother would be cold. So every day, he lay there in bed and said, no matter what direction my life takes me, I have a purpose. I am not going to stop until I buy my mother a house in Florida. That is a person with purpose. That is a person that will work harder than everybody else because he has a reason. Does it take money to buy a house? Yes. But it's not the money that Chris wakes up for every day. It's buying his mother a house and taking care of her that drives him. So I'll tell you guys what was really, really cool for me was the day we achieved this. It's not even my mother, and I felt like it was. And we took Chris's mother to Florida. But the day finally came because we were committed and we worked really hard and we achieved excellence. And guess what? We got paid because we achieved excellence. So he got the house. And we went down there. And, you know, it was sort of what we did was sort of mean at first. Because we took her in the house and she was upset because she doesn't have a house. And she said to her son, "Why are you taking me to Florida to see something else that Jeff owns? Right? I don't care that he has a house in Florida." And she was sad. She said, "I just want to go home." Which is perfect because we wanted her to be a little down so that the up would be better. And I said, "Okay, fine, you can leave, but can I just show you something?" She said, "Jeff, I don't want to see the rest of your house." Right? And I said, "Just one thing." And she said, "What?" And I said, "I just want you to come see my bedroom." And she said, "Okay, that's weird. I don't want to go to your bedroom." And I said, no, just trust me." And so she went down the hall, and I opened the door. And the look on her face, what we had done was we bought all new furniture, but we had moved her bedroom and only her bedroom into the house. So she opened the door, and she said, "Why is all my furniture in your bedroom?" And I have to tell you guys, watch looking in her eyes the moment she realized, and she turned to me and said, "It's not your bedroom, isn't it? This is my house, isn't it?" That moment made all the times that I stayed at work when all my friends went out to party worth it, because we had a purpose. And I will tell you, there were a lot of times in my life that all my friends said, "It's Friday, we're going to go out and do something fun." And I'm not telling you not to have fun. I'm telling you that there were a lot of parties that I didn't go to. I'd get up and say, "Let's go." And I'd say, "You know what, you guys go without me because I'm going to finish what I started." And then I read this thing, by the way, it was about entrepreneurship, but it totally, hopefully this will make sense to you. Here's what it said. It said, being an entrepreneur is living a few years of your life in a way that most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life in a way that most people can't. So that made sense to me. Because you know what? I skipped a few parties in my life to get something done, to buy a house for Chris's mother, or whatever my goal was. But guess what? The rest of my life, everyone says, "Jeff, you're so lucky you get to live this good life." I'm not lucky, I'm working hard. Okay, I set goals, I achieve them. And what I'm telling you is, if you're not ever willing to skip the next fun thing or the next party, you won't achieve excellence. There's a second rest of your life good because you were willing to pay the price to do it. So I'm going to give you kind of a clue going forward as to how to do this, how to find your purpose. And I'll tell you guys what to look for as you go along in your life. And it doesn't matter how old or young you are. This will always apply for your life. It's this thing we call your golden purpose. And your golden purpose is you're trying to match three things. First of all, ask yourself this question. What are you best at? What is the one, if I made you pick one thing, what is the one thing in the world that you are best at as a human being? And write that down. The second question is, what do you love doing the most? Okay? So what am I best at? What do I love doing the most? Because, by the way, one girl said, "I'm a really good accountant," but that's not what I love. She said, "I love resolving arguments and helping people with their relationships." So then the third piece is, what is something you can make a living doing? What is something that the world values? I'm going to give you an example in just a second here. So your golden purpose is when you hit this moment in life where you're doing the thing you're really good at, and it's the thing you love doing, and it's the thing that the world will actually pay you to do. That's what you're trying to find. And here's the thing. If you're not looking, you'll never find it. So I'm not telling you this is easy. What I'm telling you is I constantly would look up in my life and say, am I doing the thing I'm good at, because then I'll probably be successful? Am I doing the things I love doing? Am I doing things that someone in the world would actually value, so I can actually, because you still do have bills to pay. You still do have responsibilities. And Chris's mother's house, that costs money. So I need to create value in the world so we can get paid to buy that house. So the golden purpose is that combination. But most people have never asked. When I go ask people, what are you best at in the world? Most people have to think and think and think. That tells me they've never even thought about that. So why aren't you doing the thing that you're best at, right? I'm pretty sure that Michael Jordan did not want to be an accountant because he's a pretty good basketball player and he can make a living doing that thing. And he loves doing it, and guess what? So does the world. You're trying to find those three things in the same place. So I want to tell you guys a story. Like I said, I work with a lot of students at colleges and stuff, and schools at all different levels. So I met this young man, and I said, so tell me your plan. And he said, I'm getting a mechanical engineering degree at school. And I said, oh, because when you go to bed at night, you dream about engineering things? And he said, no, that's not what I dream about. And I said, oh, so when you wake up every morning, You just can't wait to go to engineer something? And he said, no. And I said, then I don't understand. Why are you becoming a mechanical engineer? And you guys, being Indian, will love this. He said, because that's the family business. And he said, my dad's an engineer, my mom's an engineer, my sister's an engineer. That's what we do in this family. And I said, okay, you know what? Let's just drop that for a minute. Let's not talk about engineering for a minute. And I said, let's just, a fun exercise, do this with me. I said, dream world. Tell me your dream. And I asked him the questions I just told you guys. I said, what do you think you're best at in the world? By the way, he did not say I'm the world's best engineer. He said, Jeff, I'm a really good cook. I watch all the cooking shows and I love to cook when I'm in the kitchen. By the way he talked about that, don't you wish you were talking about the rest of your life the way you were talking about cooking? Right? Because he was all excited about it. And he was telling me that he's a great cook. I said, what else do you love doing that you're passionate about? He said, traveling around and meeting new people. So I said, just ask yourself this question. And guys, let's be clear. I am not telling you not to go in your family business. And I am not telling you not to go get an engineering job. What I'm telling you is before you make any decision, ask yourself these questions. What makes me happy? What do I love doing? And just make sure you've thought through your decision before you make it. Some people, actually, that's what they want to do. If you want to be in the family business, be an engineer, all we're saying is make sure you ask, because most people don't. In fact, I can stop for a minute and tell you, in the last year, I was the commencement speaker at several university graduations and commencements, and I had to talk to the parents a minute, and I thought they were going to throw me out of the building. Because I said to the parents, I said, I got some news for you. And by the way, Indian youth told me even more so. Most young Indians told me that our parents have a lot of control over our young life for a long time. They tell us what to do and how to do it. And Indian parents have a lot of control, and they want us to do it. So here's what I said to the parents. I got news for you. Your child respects you and loves you, but they don't want to be you. Okay? I love my father, but I actually don't want to be my father. In your case, to Indian parents, I would say this. You grew up in generations of one way of living, but the world changed. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world of social media and global connections, and we live in a world where the Indian delegation shows up in Moscow and is part of the world scene. We live in a world where a lot of you have friends, whether it's Facebook or whatever, in other countries that you would have never had before and your parents didn't because there was no social media or connectivity. The world's not the same. So for parents to tell you, you should live, I told them, I said, you're trying to create a mini you. But your kid loves you, they just don't want to be you. They want their own life. They want to do their own thing. So here's what I said to them. I have a question. I said, do you want perfect children or do you want happy children? And you should have seen the faces. Because I said, you're doing a really good job at perfect. You're making little robots that all line up in the engineering only because you told them they had to do that. Right? I said, so do you want a perfect kid or a happy kid? And there are many people, like I said, that engineering is what makes them happy. That's not the point. The point is, you make that decision. So, this kid, I said, tell me what the perfect life would be for you, and it's this. He said, in a dream world, Jeff, I would have a food truck. And he said, I would drive around the country, and I would cook my great meals for people. And while I'm cooking, I would talk to them and learn their stories and see their city. So I would travel around cities, meeting people, talking to them, and making great food. That's my dream. And I didn't say a word. And in the silence, he just kind of hung his head down. And he said, now I can't do it. And I said, what? And he said, now I can't go to this engineering job. And I said, why? He said, because I'm going to spend every day of my life looking out the window and wondering what might have been. Okay, if I don't ever try this. So he said to me the next day, he came back and he said, I've made the decision. I'm not going to take the job. I'm going to go do a food truck. And I said, uh-oh. And I said, what do you think is going to happen? And he said, well, my mother is going to cry for about a month. And he said, and then my father's just going to kill me, so it won't matter anyway. Okay? So I said, wow. And I said, I'll tell you what, when you get home, I guess you got to tell your parents. So the next day, I saw him, and he said, Jeff, I did it. And I said, you did what? And he said, I couldn't wait. And I said, wait, what? And he said, I sent them an email. I said, are you kidding me? You told your parents by email this decision? He said, I just couldn't wait anymore. And now I'm thinking, your dad's not going to kill you. He's going to kill me because this was my idea. He's probably waiting outside right now. And I could not believe it. I said, well, it's on now. Whatever happens, happens. So the next day, he was right. obviously his father was very upset because when he came up to me, he was crying. And he came running up with tears in his eyes. And I said, look, I am so sorry. I never should have interfered. I should have stayed out of your life and your family. I didn't mean, and he stopped me. He said, stop. And I said, what? And I said, did your father not disown you and kick you out of the family? He said, no. And I said, then why are you crying? He said, I'm crying because I'm happy. And I said, happy about what? And he said, my father just bought me a food truck. And his father sent me an email. And his father said, I don't think I've ever had, he said, this is the first real conversation I've ever had with my son. He said, I never asked my son what his dreams were or what would make him happy. And he said, we just didn't know. And he said, we were just making him us. Here's the deal. Guess what they did? They do a compromise, which I think is great. They told their son, and by the way, I have heard at least 6. Just yesterday in Chennai, there was a young Indian who told me the same thing. He said, my father said yes, but we compromised. My father was going to sponsor me for 1 year. I'm going to leave the family business and I'm going to start my startup. And my father said, I want you to be happy. I'll give you a year and I'll finance it. I'll cover your bills. If you get the company up and running in a year, then you can leave the family business and go build your life. But if you don't, I can't keep paying your bills. The real world's out there. You got to come back. I think that's a great compromise. I think it's a great idea for a lot of you to go to your parents and say, just give me the chance, right? And if I can't pull it off in X amount of time, then I agree to come back to my degree or whatever that is. I think it's great that more and more Indian parents are doing what this family is doing. They're telling their children, let's give it a shot and see how it goes, and we'll help you do that. So the point of all this is this guy now has 6 trucks in 6 cities, and this is my favorite part. His mother is an employee of his company. Okay? So not only did it not turn out bad, but he makes about 3 times more money, which he never cared about, than his salary was, because he owns a business now. And his family works in his business now, some of the members of it. The point of all this is following your passions, your dreams, and giving yourself a chance to succeed. And the world's most excellent people follow that rule right here. So I do want to say this. What is the secret sauce to excellence? And the secret sauce to excellence is passion, right? You do not have to be the smartest person in the room. I see a lot of people sometimes on TV that you see and they're really successful. And you look at those people and you say, well, she was just way smarter than me. That's why she's successful. I could never do what she does. I thought that a lot of times too. And then I got out in the world and started meeting some of the world's most successful people. And you guys wouldn't believe there was this one time where I met this very famous, I won't say his name, very famous American billionaire. It was very successful. And I spent the day with him. And I walked out and I said, wait, are you kidding me? That guy? Right? He's not smarter than... There's this TV show in the United States called Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? I was like, that dude would lose to a 3rd grader. And yet he's really successful. So the whole idea that successful people are smarter than you, they're not. The difference is all these things I told you. They have a purpose, they have passion, they're focused, they're driven. This guy was successful just because he got up and he started it. And he was focused on trying to make something work. Your chances of being excellent in life are higher if you're doing something that you are passionate about. Now the next thing that I want to tell you guys is when you figure out the thing in life you're best at, go win a gold medal in it. And let me tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by winning a gold medal in something is do something in your life that is excellent. Find something you can achieve, something you can build. Maybe it's, one person I know, she put on a charity event in her town and raised a bunch of money for charity. Right? This was her idea. She ran the event. She created it. Some people launch a company. Some people go do whatever it is. Find something that you're good at and go do something that wins you a gold medal. Let me explain to you why. There was this employee of mine that used to come to the company office and he would bring his son. And his son is 4 years old at the time. Their last name's Taylor. And the little boy would run down the hall, and my office was at the end. And he'd run as fast as he could, and at the end, he'd throw his arms in the air, and he'd say, Taylor wins the gold. And I'd say, what are you doing, little guy? The little guy would say, I'm winning a gold medal in the Olympics. Then he would take off running the other way and say, Taylor wins the gold. And this was his little thing. And he would say, this is my dream, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I would say, good luck with that. Run the other way. Taylor wins the gold. This is what he did. Well, this is the same kid in college. This is a real picture of him. That wasn't. This is actually him. His first name's Christian. But he became a really good college athlete, and he stayed focused on his purpose. and he was dedicated. He worked harder than everybody else, and he skipped some parties in his life, and he did all that. Well, he actually qualified for the Olympic team, and when he qualified for the team, his family couldn't afford to go, so I sponsored them to go to the Olympics. So since I sponsored them, we were texting the whole time. So during the first heat, he finished third. Not very good, maybe he's not good enough. But the top 5 athletes move on. So he moved on. In the next heat, he finished in the top 2 or 3, but he wasn't beating the best guys. But he made his way all the way to the last 10, which is the gold medal round. And I have to tell you guys, we were all sitting there, and to be sitting in front of a television, London 2012, and to hear the TV announcer say, Taylor wins the gold, just about ripped my heart out in a good way. The TV announcer said, when the scoreboard lit up, he yelled out, Taylor wins the gold. We were all in tears. It was the coolest thing ever that this kid won that gold. So let me tell you what winning a gold medal does for you. That's his real medal, and that's him right after he won it. You know what we did? So we'd go out, and he'd be with his parents. And his parents would say, his father's name is Ian. His father would say, oh, this is my son Christian. And they'd say, nice to meet you. And then they'd turn back talking to the father. Just your son Christian. Okay? So I said, let me show you guys, just as an experiment. Just do this for me. Wear the gold medal to dinner. And he's like, I'm not going to wear my medal to dinner. And I said, I just want you guys to see the difference that happens when you accomplish anything in your life on your own. And he said, fine. He wore the medal. So we go to dinner. And he says, this is my son Christian. And they turn and let's say, nice to meet you. And one person turns back and says, what's with the necklace? And he said, oh, Dad, I want a gold medal in the Olympics. And they said, wait, what? And he said, I want a gold medal in the Olympics. And their eyes went like this. You won a gold medal? It doesn't matter if it's track and field. Because what happens when you win a gold medal in anything in life? People look at you different. People look at you and they say, that guy can work hard. He's dedicated. He's focused. He performs under pressure. Everything about the way the world perceives you change when you win a gold medal at anything. Okay? So for me, even in business, it's not a bad thing in your life that our company was successful for people to say, wait, are you that Priceline guy? Because all of a sudden they see your gold medal and everything changes. So what I'm telling you in your life is to find something you can actually do that's yours. To own something. To create something in the world that you can point at and say, I did that, and do it well enough to win a gold medal, and everything else happens after that. The world comes to you and says, that guy is hardworking, dedicated, and focused, and I want to work with him. You know what excellence attracts? Excellence. Right? Because people that perform at the highest level like to be around other people that are like them and that are committed. So the people in your life, things start to change and more people come to you when you have done something with your life. Find something in the world you can achieve a gold medal and do it. And I will tell you, that takes discipline and focus, like we just talked about. So pick one thing. Okay, people tell me, I have all these dreams. In fact, you know what people say to me? They say, Jeff, you've done all these things in your life. And I say, that's right, but not at the same time. Okay? I did every one of these things one at a time. When you are focused on something, finish it. Pick one thing and do it. I always wanted to make a movie, but I didn't until I went out and built a successful company in the internet business, which I then got money from, and I took that money, and then later I went and was able to afford to take the time and money to go make movies or to go do the music tours. You do one thing at a time until you finish it and excel at it. So I do want to tell you this as well, especially for you young people, as you move your way up through life, which is to develop a personal brand. And what a personal brand means is this. Whatever you decide you're best at in life, wear that medal around your neck. If you are the girl that can resolve anybody's argument, tell everybody that. Because once you become known for something, people start calling you for things. Find something you're good at and wear that brand and be proud of it. And have that around your neck. If you are the best engineer that you know, you should say, I am an unbelievably good engineer. Because then things happen around you. So find a personal brand. Whatever you think you're best at, it's okay to say, this is the thing I'm best at. There may be people better than you. That wasn't the point. The point is, what are you best at and what do you do? And what do you want to be recognized for? So you want people to come and say, that person, I know her. She's the one that can resolve anybody's argument. Build a brand of something and be known for it and tell people, wear it proudly, what you are. And, you know, what that is all about, hang on, I think we're almost to the last part here. What that's all about is doing something. Everybody has a dream, and everybody talks, and very few people do anything about it. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to skip these in the interest of time a little bit, but I saw this on a sign somewhere. It said, ideas are welcome, but execution is worship. Let me explain what that means. I just told you this part, by the way. Well, let me skip to the slide. I want to show you that. Okay? So here's the difference. What I found out about the world's most excellent people is that they weren't smarter than you. They just got up and started doing something. Okay? So I used to go with my friends right out of college, and we would go to Craig's house, and we would all watch sports, and we would sit around on the couch and just eat and drink and watch sports together every Friday. And every Friday, one of my friends would say, okay, this is the last year. This December's it. I'm leaving the engineering company. I'm quitting this year. And then guess what would happen next December? Okay, no, this year's it. I'm really leaving. And next year he'd say, okay, guys, I promise. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then other people would say, they'd say, I have this dream. And they'd say, I'm going to go for it. And then next Friday we were on the couch. And they were saying, I still have this dream. And I'd say, you're still on the couch. And they said, well, next week I'll do it. Okay? Everybody has a dream. Very few people ever do anything. When people ask me, why do you think you were successful? It's because one day I said this. I said, I don't know what's going to happen if I get off this couch and go try something in the world, but I'm absolutely positive what's going to happen if I don't. Okay? I'm going to spend every Friday saying, okay, next week is really it. And my Saturdays are going to disappear. Do something in life. Try something. If you have an idea for something you could do that's to help people in your neighborhood, to help women in your neighborhood, go do that. If you have a business idea, if you've got a club here on campus you want to start, do something, people. The more you get out and try anything, the more you're living and the more your chances are of succeeding once you're in the game. And by the way, most people tell me the reason most people don't try is because of the fear of failure, especially here in India. Right? Some people tell me about the stigma of failing, that it's a bad thing. Well, I will tell you something. There is something way worse in life than failing. It's called not trying. The shame in life is not in failing. The shame in life is in not trying. If you spend your whole life wondering, if you try something and fail, you can say, well, that was karma, that was fate, it wasn't meant to be, but now I know. Otherwise, you will spend the rest of your life every Friday wondering what you could have been. You know what? That lives inside you and eats you up from the inside out, wondering what you could have done with your life if you might have been. That's a lot harder to live with. There's no shame in life in failing. The shame is in not trying. And as I was saying before, the difference between those successful people is while everybody else was talking, they just picked up a shovel and started digging something. Okay, so I think the reason I was successful in business was because I was never afraid to try. This one we can do pretty quickly. By the way, all that slide was find a problem in the world and go solve it. And the way you find problems in the world is, guess what? Be in the world. Get engaged. Okay, people that are still sitting on the couch don't see the world's problems. The reason we took those entrepreneurs on that ship to all those countries is because the more people you meet and the more places you go, the more likely you are to find something in the world you can win a gold medal at. A problem you can solve that nobody else is solving. So get engaged at life. I make it a point all the time when I see somebody I don't know, I just walk up and say, what's your name? Tell me your story. What are your dreams? What are your goals? The more people you meet and the more places you go, the more likely you are for things to happen. Like I said, when people tell me, Jeff, you're so lucky, I say, no, I think I'm just so engaged. Here's an interesting thing. The harder I work, it seems, the luckier I get. Okay, when people tell me I'm really lucky, well, it's because I'm out there doing things and trying things and meeting people. So get engaged. Get off the couch and go meet somebody, go try something, go visit somewhere, and amazing things happen. The team, here's what I want to say about this before we close. It all revolves around people. Okay? So all through your life, you should be constantly meeting people every chance you get and learning about them. Because in the end, guess what? You're not as smart as you think you are. You never are. And you can't do it alone. So whatever your dream is, it's going to take a team. It's going to take people around you. So as young as you are, start building your network now. The people you know in the world do two things. One, you need them to succeed. And two, they determine the quality of your life. The quality of your life is not determined by what job you have or what paycheck you get. It's determined by the people you spend your time with. In fact, I learned that when Michael died. When I lost my best friend, I went back to work. Well, guess what? The company's the same. The work was the same. The job was the same. But I couldn't do it. I just stood there and I didn't care anymore. And I asked myself, it's the same company, the same job, the same everything, but I don't even care anymore. So what's missing? I realized what's made my job so great was that I did it every day with people I love spending the day with. It must have been Michael, because nothing else changed and I didn't care about that job anymore. The people in your life determine the quality of it, so pick them carefully. Spend time looking for people that you want to spend time with, that you want to be with in your life. So I'll tell you what, when I would launch new companies, I already knew all the people I was going to call because I made it a point to meet them before I ever needed them or wanted them for something. So we always had these really, really great teams. A reporter said to me recently, so she was philosophical. She said, is life about the journey or the destination? And I said, neither. And she said, that wasn't one of your choices. Life is either about the journey or the destination. And I said, it's not about either. It's just about the people you travel with. It doesn't really matter what direction you're going or where you started from, as long as you're with people that make your life worth living. So never lose that focus on people. I'm going to close with this story for you guys about commitment, okay, which we talked about a lot, and what it takes to be excellent in anything in life. So here's the story. Again on the right, that's my friend Evander Holyfield. This is the boxer. This is the moment. This is my favorite picture of his whole life. In all these years, at this moment in time, Mike Tyson had never lost a fight, undefeated. Further, Mike Tyson in his entire career had never even been knocked down. People were so afraid of him, and he was such a good fighter, that he was the heavyweight champion of the world, never knocked out and never knocked down. This was the moment that Evander knocked him down for the first time in his life. 2 rounds later, he knocked him out, which is why the next fight, Mike Tyson bit his ear off because he didn't want to lose again. He was trying to stop the fight. But this was the moment. So this is a guy that came from the worst poverty. He came from a household where they had 1 room and 9 children and 1 bed. He slept on the floor. They ate what they could eat. He came from the worst poverty, and he became excellent. He became the heavyweight champion of the world. In fact, he made $250 million doing this, but that wasn't his focus. His focus was kind of to buy a house for his mom, too. But here's the story. I'm thinking about how he achieved this, and we'll end with this. He was doing an exercise one day, that he does this exercise to get ready for a fight. And he does this exercise 3 sets of 100. So he does it 300 times. This is an exercise that most of the human race could do twice, and he does it 300 times. That's why he looks like that. So he's doing this exercise, and I'm counting. And I said, 299, 300. And Evander said, Jeff, is it 299 or 300? And I said, 300. And he said, was it 299 or 300? I said, it was 300. So without taking his eyes off me, he went back and did one more exercise. And he came back up and he said, I think it was only 299. And I'm sitting here thinking, the guy does this 300 times a day, every day, and the human race can only do it twice. Seriously? So I kind of rolled my eyes when he said, I think it was only 299. I said, okay, fine, whatever, it was 299. And he said something that also changed my life, another one of those moments. He said, Jeff, look at me. And I got to tell you guys, I remember thinking, well, this is about to be my funeral, because I don't think that was the guy you want angry at you. He said, look at me. And I said, what? And what he said next, I don't want you guys ever to forget, because it's the difference between excellent people and everybody else. Evander said this. He said, Jeff, the difference between 299 and 300 is the difference between heavyweight champion of the world and every other boxer. And I tell you guys, I had goosebumps. I didn't move. I just stood there for 10 minutes because I wanted to feel this for a while, because that is the key to success in life, right? Because you know what happens when 299 is okay today? What do you think happens Tuesday? 298 is almost 299. Wednesday, 297 is almost 298. And you know what's happening down the hall from you? She's doing 300, and she's going to beat you, okay? Somebody else is in there doing it, and they're going to beat you. So his lesson was, whatever you commit to do. By the way, one of the things I love is that a lot of, I wrote in my office. I went back to my office, by the way, and I wrote the number 299, and then I put a big red slash through it, so that I would never forget what the difference between the champion and everybody else is. And I'll give you an example. One night, I was writing a proposal. Not athlete. This isn't about sports. It's about life. And it was really good. And I finished it at midnight. Everybody was long gone. I was proud of myself for staying so late and finishing this proposal. And I got up, turned off the lights, and I was walking out. and I saw on the board the $2.99 with the slash in it. And by the way, I love it now when people around the world write this at their office, at their home, and send me a picture of it. They write a $2.99 with the slash through it, and we all sort of know what that club means. I was walking by and I saw the $2.99 and I stopped. And I said to myself, is this proposal good enough? I said, it is. This is a really good proposal. But is it the best work I could possibly do? No. It's a $2.99. Most of the world can't do no $2.99, but I could do a $300. So you know what I did? I turned back around, I got some coffee, I stayed till 4 in the morning. I delivered the best work I could possibly do, not good enough work. The customer called me and said, not only is this the best proposal we have ever received, but we're telling everybody in the industry they should do business with you guys. Was the difference between $2.99 and $300 worth it? Absolutely. So I'm going to end with that whatever you set out to do with your life, finish it. Be committed to excellence and do 300. Thank you guys very much for having me here today. Are we able to do Q&A? So I would love to take questions from you guys, comments, questions, whatever.
The floor is now open for questions.
We have mics out there. I don't know how we, yes. So keep your hand up. A microphone is coming.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Vivek from 2nd BCom. Sir, my question to you is, having worked in the White House, being the executive officer of the president, also working in the Department of Commerce for USA, you have also won the gold medal in entrepreneurship, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I have actually been trying to. Right? When somebody said to me, it's interesting because on this trip, I've been flying every single day. I've been doing this all day long. I was just over at another college doing this. And I go and I go and I go, and then they take me to the airport and I fly to another city. I've been doing this every day, and my friend said, are you crazy? You're flying to a different city every single day in India? And you know what I felt like saying? That's what it takes to win a gold medal. Right? You don't take the easy path, you do what you have to do, but thank you for your comment.
So what is...
It's nighttime, I've been talking too long.
So what do you think are the changes that you have made for the betterment in the business world?
A couple of things. I mean, it's sort of, I don't think any one of us as one person can say you've made a lot of change, so I don't want to take credit for things I haven't done, but I'll tell you what I'm trying to do in the business world. We're trying to create, well, my goal is really simple, create more entrepreneurs. And the reason why is I think entrepreneurs are people that are driven with reasons for something they want to do, and they go out and change the world. So here's what I hope I've achieved in the business world. I hope that I've inspired more people like you to go do something great with your life. So one day when you go out and change the world, and I'm reading about you, I can say, I had a little tiny piece of that effort there. That's what I'm hoping the result would be. Sometimes people call me from around the world and say, you inspired me. I actually got off the couch and I went and did something that I might not have done if you hadn't said that. So that's the difference that I hope that I am making, is inspiring people to go do something that matters.
Thank you, sir.
And I hope I'm going to see you someday on the news.
Definitely, sir, definitely. I'll give you a call the time that happens.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a question?
Good afternoon, sir. My question to you is, what do you think of India's immunity during global financial crisis?
We're out of time. Thank you guys very much. I can't answer hard questions.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure. I'm not qualified to talk about the financial crisis. That's why I said that. So, can somebody help? Can we word that question in a way that I'm actually qualified to answer it? Because if you can relate that more to the business, I'm just saying, I don't pretend to answer stuff that I don't know. And I don't really know the answer to that. I'm not an expert on the financial side of things. I'll tell you what, I'll answer a question you didn't ask, and we can all pretend you asked that. Okay? Which is some of the really positive trends that I see in India. Okay? Evidenced by, obviously, these recent elections. But a lot of things are changing. Okay? And what I'm just saying, I can't answer the financial part of it, but I can't answer the business part of it. There's a lot of things that are changing. Incubators are being built. I'm talking about entrepreneurship, the area that I know. Business plan competitions. More and more of you are saying, I am actually going to go start something on my own in the world. The infrastructure, programs like this, the fact that you have an entrepreneur come to the FACE2FACE program to talk about launching businesses and things. I just see so many good trends in India, and that's why I am doing this. That's why I'm here. That I think you guys have a really bright future on the global stage. And that old trend where Indians don't tend to think as globally as other cultures, I think is about to end, because you guys in this room are going to go out and create amazing things that the whole world's going to see. So I like the way that your society is evolving and saying no disrespect to our history and our tradition, but our future is going to look different. So I know that's not the question you asked, but that's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I'm sorry. Somebody else?
I have a question.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Now? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Bhavni from 2nd BCom. My question to you is, what measures can be taken to improve the economic conditions of developing and underdeveloped countries in the commercial sector?
Well, actually, that's a really good question, because that's exactly why we're talking about entrepreneurship. So the truth is, how far am I supposed to go? Okay. I'm going to walk right over to you and answer your question. How's that? Entrepreneurship, the whole point of entrepreneurship is all these studies have been done, and all the net new job creation in all commercial sectors is worldwide. Most of the new job creation is being done by startups. Entrepreneurs are creating all the new jobs. They're stimulating economies. They're creating value right there. So the whole reason we're so focused on entrepreneurship is that that's where the future is. That's where the commercial future is. Entrepreneurs move faster and deeper than big companies, because they have to do that. I lose my Britney Spears microphone, that I don't like these things, but that's anyway, so that's what I think the future is. I think we see this transition evolves to the next generation that it can do. So I really do think that entrepreneurs the key to growing economies and commercializing things. And that's why we want more and more of you to say, I don't just have to go get a job, I can go. That's what makes economic. Did I walk too far for this to work? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have another question? Okay. Another question? Somebody? I don't know where the microphone is. She has the mic. Okay, go ahead.
Sir. I'm Vijay. Is America's economic supremacy gradually sliding down?
I'm going to say yes, and I told them that in the White House. I told them that. They asked me to brief, in fact, interesting, at one point I got asked to brief members of our Congress on American competitiveness. And I will tell you what I told them, that the global market is coming. And I'm going to tell you guys a story. In fact, I'm really glad you asked that, because here's what illustrates this. I was in, and it just happened in India, but that had to happen at this time. Somebody asked me about this American competitiveness and leadership, and I told them this story. I was in Senegal, in West Africa. Senegal is a rural agricultural nation, might sound familiar to parts of this nation. And that was their history. And I'm out in the rural part of Africa, in Senegal, because I want to meet people like you guys, right? What's fun for me is to talk to you directly, and I hope some of you will find me online and email me. So I went out to meet this young 19-year-old man in Senegal. All day long, he works in the fields. So if you were to ask America if it was afraid of being, of the competition from a 19-year-old kid in the fields of West Africa, they would have told you no, and here's why they would have been wrong. This kid says to me, he comes in from the fields and he cleans up. Their family's business is agricultural. And he says, Mr. Hoffman, can I show you my business? And I said, sure. And he starts talking. And I had to say, guys, to him, whoa, wait a minute, stop. And I said, where did you learn all this stuff? This is a 19-year-old kid in rural Africa? And he said, oh, Stanford. And I said, wait, you told me you've never left Africa. And he said, I've never left Africa. I take free Stanford courses on Coursera on the internet at night. You know why? He wants a better life. So during the day, he works in the fields. During the night, he takes free courses from American universities and others. Then he starts presenting the business idea. And I said, stop. And I was thinking to myself, because I mentor at places like Stanford and MIT. And I said, if I closed my eyes and forgot where I was, this kid is so smart and his idea is so good, I could be anywhere in the world, not in the fields of Africa. So I said, where did you even learn those words? And he said, oh, I stay up at night and watch TED Talks. Okay? He said, Mr. Hoffman, that's how I found you. I saw you on TED and I emailed you. Then he said, let me show you the presentation. And I said, sure. And I started looking at it. And I said, this presentation's brilliant. Who wrote this PowerPoint? And he said, I did. And I said, where would you possibly learn that working in the fields of Africa? And he said, I go on SlideShare on the internet and I look at presentations all night long. Here is the point. That kid could not exist 2 years ago. A young entrepreneur in West Africa could never have been competitive 2 years ago. And you know what created that? The democracy of information. Today, online, no matter who you are in this room or where you live, you can improve your education. You can add to your education. You can take everything you learn here and learn even more in the evenings by adding to it. The fact that there's online curriculum for all kinds of colleges and universities is important. So is competitiveness threatened? Absolutely. Because in the past, that kid could never leave the fields. And today, he's as smart as anybody in America or anywhere else, and he's coming. Just like I hope you guys are coming too. You can improve yourself. And I want to say something about colleges and universities and your education. Here is what most people think. When you graduate here in your final year, people say, wow, I'm glad my education is done. Here's what I want to tell you. That is the day your education starts. What you learn here is how to learn. What we are teaching you here is how to think, how to solve problems, how to work in teams. Engineering and math are structured thinking. I have people that tell me, well, I'm not going to do math when I leave here. And we have to tell them, we didn't teach you math just so you could solve a math problem. There might not be somebody that walks into your food business and says, could you please compute the square root of this number for me? That's not why you learned it. You learn how to think, and you learn how to learn here. So the day you leave here is the day you start using the tools this university, this college taught you, and you go out and learn. So given that the beginning of learning starts when you get out in the world and you learn how to learn here, and you put all that together, the fact is that this democracy of information and this access to more education and more learning that's available to anybody in the world is a huge threat to our competition. So I went there, whether they liked it or not. I went on Capitol Hill in the United States when they said brief members of Congress, and I said, yes, your leadership position is threatened because there were always smart people everywhere else in the world, but they didn't have tools. Right? Does that make sense to everybody too? Because people look and they say America must be smarter because all the good companies are coming out of there. Well, that means you think all the good ideas were coming out of there, and that's where we're wrong. The good ideas always existed, the tools didn't. Now that technology is making the tools available to everybody in the world, somebody in rural India who always had a good idea is now going to implement it, and it's going to be as good as anything that came out of Silicon Valley. So I'm glad you asked that question. The playing field is getting leveled, and you guys should be on the global stage too. Thank you. Any more? Up here, we have one in the front.
I had a question.
Okay.
Suppose a kid in school.
I'll just repeat it so you can go ahead and say it.
Okay. Suppose a kid in school before college says he wants to play professional football. Suppose a kid in school says he wants to play professional football and give up school. What does the school advise him, and what do the parents advise this kid?
Well, I can't tell you what the school will advise him. You guys have to answer that. I will tell you what I always tell everybody. And I'm not saying they shouldn't pursue a career in professional sports, but getting an education is one of the most important things you can possibly do for the reason we just said. So let me give you an example. Because somebody said to me once, I'm a really good athlete, in sports, so I don't need the education. I can make all this money. This is what the person told me. I can make all this money by being a professional footballer, and I don't need school for that. And what I said to him was this: you might make all that money, but you probably won't keep it because you have no education. And so what happened was, one of my friends who was a professional athlete was sitting there one day trying to figure out how to invest his money and take care of his family, and reading a plan, a business, an investment opportunity. And he turned to me and he said, I wish I had just finished school because I don't understand anything going on in the world around me if it's not on the field. So it's an individual choice that you have to make, but I have always advised people that your education is the foundation for everything else you're going to do. And if you're in sports and you're a successful athlete, guess what you do? If you're good on the football team, you get endorsement contracts, you sign shoe deals, you do all these business things that you may not understand any of it if you have no education. So I know people will have opinions. I'm sure the school, is going to want you to stay in school. Parents, that we can't really answer for the parents, but at least that's my perspective on it. Thank you.
Hello, sir. What do you say about the complete knockdown? Does it be powerful for on and off management or any administration? Is it beneficial for the entrepreneurs world?
Do you mean to fail?
On and off management most powerful, sir. Does it make many beneficial or it is must for entrepreneurs world?
Okay, I'm still not sure. Can someone help me with the question? I'm still not sure what you're asking.
Sir, I'm just asking about what do you say about the complete knockdown? Is it much beneficial for?
Okay, no, I understand, but I don't know what you mean by the complete knockdown with that.
So, do we have to go down for any competitive tasks which occurs in the companies?
I still don't know what the question is. Will someone help me, please? Right there, hand him the microphone. What? I'm not following. Okay, so you didn't understand either. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Well, maybe explain it to someone that I'd love to answer the question, but I didn't understand it either. We'll come back. Yes.
Sir, developed countries are not in favor of larger subsidies, agricultural subsidies given by developing countries. What's your view on that?
Why do you have all these smart kids here? You should have told me that before we came. Again, I have views, but I don't really think it's fair to answer questions that I am not an expert in. So, I could answer, but I have no basis. It's like in the United States when movie stars answer all the questions about the economy. Really? What do you know about the economy? So, I'd rather not answer that because I don't think my answer is qualified. I'm not the person that knows that. So I'm going to respectfully say that I don't think I should answer a question that I don't have real knowledge to answer. I would be guessing. I apologize for that, but I don't. Here's another lesson in life. If you don't know the answer, don't answer. Okay? As silly as that sounds, a lot of times later in life, customers would say to us, we appreciate the fact that when you don't know, you tell us you don't know and you go find the answer instead of just answering. So I learned that the hard way, and that's why I apologize. If I don't feel like I'm really qualified to answer a question, I won't.
Good evening, Mr. Hoffman. Oh, yeah.
Where are you? I just hear a disembodied voice somewhere. Yeah. It must be those voices in my head again. Except now the voice in my head has an Indian accent.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Hoffman. So it's fantastic talk you just had. I ask you this question because you're closely associated with the US White House. What are the specific measures that the Obama government has taken to promote entrepreneurship during the financial meltdown that the US had?
That the US government?
Yeah.
So that is a good question, and that one I'm involved in, so I can answer that. The point is they didn't initially. And when the meltdown happened in our economy, and the crisis happened, and a lot of things started going down, everybody said, help, what do we do? That was the first point at which the US government said, we got to create more jobs and stimulate the economy. How do we do that? And that's when they looked around and they did the data. And that's when they determined that 100% of the net new job growth in the United States in the last 5 years came from startups and small companies and new businesses. And that's when they reacted a little bit too late and said, we need to. So President Obama then created the Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation in the White House, reporting to him. And that's when they called people like me and said, go help the president with entrepreneurship initiatives. So we launched some. There's one our State Department runs that was under Hillary Clinton that I worked with her on that's called the Global Entrepreneurship Program, where our government said, and they called people like me in, and they said, tell us what we need to do to support entrepreneurs. Because remember, I told you earlier when I was talking, for example, about getting out of your office and going Sam Walton and going to the diner, knowing the customer. Is that when you go out in the world and you spend time with people is the only way to understand them. So I had to say to my own government, I said this, I said, how is it you think you can serve entrepreneurs when you don't even know any, right? You spend all your time running a government, you don't know entrepreneurship. We have this thing in the United States called Take Your Child to Work Day, where once a year everyone brings their children to their office to let them see what they do. I told our Congress, why don't you have Take an Entrepreneur to Work Day? Because you guys don't even know what we do for a living. You're politicians in government. So don't try to develop programs for people you don't know. So they said, what should we do? And I said, get a bunch of us together and listen. Let us talk about what we need to help and support us. So now here's the good news. In the U.S., they did that. They created programs. There's another program that I'm on the International Advisory Board called GIST, Global Innovation Through Science and Technology. Our White House and our State Department created that and said, let's get entrepreneurs to help us design programs that increase innovation and entrepreneurship in science and technology. So they didn't do it until they were in trouble, but the programs our government launched now, the smart thing they did was call entrepreneurs instead of trying to do it on their own and say, what do you guys need and how can we help you? And I will report, while there's a long way to go, the progress is good. I hope that more countries do that. I was in Malaysia with John Kerry, our Secretary of State, where we had the Prime Minister of Malaysia asking us, so what is it you guys are doing? And sharing ideas so that their country can launch programs. So I do hope that more and more countries do the same thing. Bring their entrepreneurs in and say, what can we do to help make you more productive? I think it's really, really important to the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any more?
Sir?
Hi. Good evening. Yeah. Yeah, you've traveled a lot of countries, and from among the world, which countries you find a lot of entrepreneurs where government is supporting or more entrepreneurs are created?
Okay. Well, here's the funny part to me when we talk about entrepreneurship. Then I get off the plane in India and get in a car, and every single thing I pass is entrepreneurship. It's a million little shops and restaurants and stands and even rickshaws. Everybody's an entrepreneur. I went in Pune to the thieves market. Can't remember the Indian word for it, but everywhere you go, people are doing business. So this whole country was built on entrepreneurship, and everybody is an entrepreneur. They just don't call it that here. It's in your blood. It's in your DNA. So that part of that question is where you find a lot of entrepreneurs. That's why I'm here in India. You guys are it. You've been it. You built your whole country that way. Now, the second part of your question was about governments helping. And I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm not seeing enough of it. I just gave a compliment to Malaysia because they invited people over and they said, what kind of programs should we launch? And then they launched them. I'll give you an example of what their government did. They created, entrepreneurs can never get funding when they need it. It's hard to get money. So they create, because people say, go show that your business works and then I'll give you money. It's like banks only give money to people who don't need money. Right? That's the problem with banks. You have to already qualify in a way that you said, if I had that, I wouldn't need a bank. Okay? So what they did in Malaysia was they listened and they created a fund. The government put $250 million into a fund, and they tell entrepreneurs, look, if you're going to quit your engineering job and you can't eat and you want to start a company, call us and we'll give you startup money. They're actually giving people money and you don't have to pay it back. You just have to convince them you're really going to go start a business and they keep an eye on you. So what we told the government was, make it possible. If you want your country to be great, then you need your young people to go out and innovate. If you want them to innovate, then you need to give them a little bit of cash so that they can afford not to go take the family job and that they can go take risks and try things. They did that. So that's an example of a government saying, we're going to set aside money for our young people. They'll come apply for it and they can have it because we'd rather have more young people trying things and innovating and starting companies than being afraid to or not affording to. So we're seeing the signs of it all over the place. I hope, I've been getting quite the lesson in the last few weeks about the Indian government. I hope governments step up and do more, and we do need their help. But I'm going to tell you guys this. Anyone in this room that's thinking of being an entrepreneur, do not wait. Entrepreneurs don't wait for governments or anybody else. Entrepreneurs, I already told you this, pick up shovels and start digging. Sometimes governments show up and say, what are you digging? And we say, we're fixing a problem because we know you don't have time to get to it. We'll take care of it. Governments start to see that entrepreneurs are fixing problems and creating good, and then they support them. So don't have that excuse of saying, well, it's hard here because of our government, so we're just going to do nothing. Do it anyway, and they come around when they see what amazing things you guys can do. So please, don't wait for an invitation. Pick up a shovel and start digging something. Anything else? I don't know what our time, are we okay on time? Okay, last question.
Good afternoon, sir. You've been a part of different startups in the economic sector. We'd like to know which particular sector is your favorite, which is close to your heart.
Okay, actually I'm going to answer the question you asked and one you didn't ask. The question you asked, obviously I love the travel industry. Right? We've done very well in it. Our travel company does business in 180 countries now. I happen to love travel and exploring, so that's a good one. But I'm going to tell you what I think are going to be the two favorites going forward. So, two areas where for people in this room, if you want to create a startup, there will be huge opportunity are healthcare and education. Healthcare on a global basis is going to go digital and it's going to go mobile. People are going to find more and more things you can do with a mobile device to help take care of your health and medicine that don't exist today. It's a huge opportunity, and the same thing in education. Education is not reaching all the parts of the world that need it. Technology will finally enable us to get education to places that don't get it today. I'm going to give you a healthcare example. I was exploring. There was like two engineers, and I said, what is this thing? And they said, try it. And it was a smartphone. It was an iPhone and a cable. And you plug the cable in, and on the other end of the cable was a bunch of cables. And when you plug it in, the smartphone lights up and it tells you where to stick these things. And you stick these things and then you hit the button and it does an EKG. You can actually run your own heart scan from your iPhone. That used to require a hospital and really expensive equipment, which means that people that live in a rural area will never get their heart scanned and never know what problem they might have because there's no hospital with that equipment. When a $10 cable and a smartphone gets to them, and they can just plug the cable in, it reads your heart and it sends it to the nearest doctor or medical center or analyzes it online, the whole world changes. So digital healthcare, mobile healthcare, and the same thing in education are my new favorites. That's where I think we're going to see great innovation. And what's more important is it's innovation that makes the world a better place. If we can fix healthcare and provide better medical care to people that can't get any, and if we can provide education to people who education is the only way up for, then that's a pretty good world, and I'd love to be part of that. So I'm really, again, hoping some of you will launch the next generation healthcare and education products and apps, because you'll change the world if you do. So, we're done? Thank you guys very much again. Turn it off. So much. It's truly